Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. I'm looking at my window here, and a vision for the future has been playing in my head for quite some time now. I live in a subdivision next to a major city, and it's been developed right up the wazoo to hell and back. There's virtually nowhere they could be putting up new houses. Even new apartments would be difficult. And I'm looking at several apartments or condos. I'm not 100% sure which they are. I think they're mixed, but I've never been inside one and never had an interest in looking into them. That being said, the reason this area in particular, there's some areas in my area that are wonderful. Big, beautiful houses that are turning into McMansions where half of it is rented out, if not more. And I'm wondering, my area is pretty prime location. So what's it going to take? Well, I'll tell you, back in the 1980s, we had a mayor, and the mayor's mantra was build, build, build. He wanted to expand the city, and at that point, there was lots of city empty paths and all that sort of thing to expand into. Now they're going into those corner parks. You know, the one that goes around the corner of a major street, and they're shoving houses in there. Well, you have no choice at that point. You have to build up. If I just take a guess, I'd say that they could fit, let's just say 10 high-rise developments. I have no idea how they're going to park that many cars, but that's where I'm seeing the impetus going. And they're just kind of come along one day, they're going to say, here's an offer for your house. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, whatever it is, they'll manipulate the laws and remove people like myself, Generation X, early millennials, that sort of thing, who are holding on to houses we love and cherish. They're just going to say, nope, we have legal approval, get out. So we have to pick up our stuff and move. That's not very good, but it's an area we're boxing ourselves into. I don't want this to sound like an anti-immigrant message, because it's not. I think immigration is a good thing. Bring the best and the brightest over, and let's give them whatever they want, so that way they can make a positive contribution in society. I don't care if they're serving fries at McDonald's or they're implementing engineering solutions for brand new complicated manufacturing processes. But where do we put these people? The same story. Again, this is not anti-immigration, quite the opposite. I think there should be a reasonable amount of immigration, and somebody needs to figure out what do we need to replace our population, and that should basically be what you're allowing in. H-1B, specialty visas, stuff like that. Okay, that's going to have to be replaced. But it's also the cause of the problem. We have schools, and every single new administration that comes in says, oh yeah, we're going to control class sizes. Simply not possible. Do you want to know why? Because then you get cross fertilization is what I'll call it. You get a kid who's across the town, across whatever, they move over here, and all of a sudden your perfectly budgeted class sizes of 20 apiece, someone's going to get 21. People move. We are all economic migrants. If we can find a place where we can build or build our little shingle and put it up and make some money, that's rare in this world. And it's becoming rarer and rarer. So what we have to do is accommodate. Because imagine you have a need of a social engineer or whatever, and nobody will come because there's no way to buy a house there, or even apartment, condo, etc. So how do we protect the rights of the citizen to own property without shoving them out in the boonies and having them drive 2 hours a day? Oh, and that's another thing I hate about this. When I was young, Barrie first opened up as a city for Torontonians to go to. And it was scary. The 400 was just packed to the gills every single day. And you get people who were adding, optimistic, if they figured everything out, 2 hours onto their work day because they're busy driving to get down into the city. God forbid there's you know, anything in the way, construction, accidents, whatever, and then an hour more to go home. Realistically, it'd be 2 hours because traffic doesn't care what you think. Traffic just happens. Here we don't have so much of a problem, but I've worked some interesting places uh, around the GTA, and yeah, you don't want to be caught in traffic trying to do whatever it is you're going to do. It lowers the quality of life quietly, whereas right now you can buy a house similar to mine and at least have somewhere where on the weekends, or whatever your version of the weekend is, you're going to be able to go out, kick back, enjoy a beverage of your choice, and pray that that's something that will continue in your family. The developers are always thinking 10 years ahead. That's just a fact of life. Because they're already thinking 10, 20 years whether they want to buy your house. Well, buy your house is a misnomer. By buying your house, I mean completely kicking it over, ripping it down, and installing row townhouses, multi-story complexes, or just, for lack of better, student housing. And we would make a lovely spot for student housing. Again, row townhouses. There's a university I could walk to in about 15 minutes if I had to. And then there's several that are within 30 minutes. So I don't think I'd love it for student housing, but the developers don't care. It increases their housing portfolio, or they just sell it off to somebody and let them run it day to day. And the people owning the houses are the big losers, and the people getting stuck with rental properties, I don't want to call them losers, but they're having their chances stolen from them. We're not looking at this retail stealing because they're stealing from one another. Oh, shoplifting? Yeah, we can look at shoplifting. By the way, more people are getting rid of their self-checkout stuff as I predicted. But this whole idea of give, or what is it? Steal from the rich, give from the poor? Well, no, they're stealing from the low and middle class to give to the rich. And I believe there's a way they can force you off the property by just saying, we're buying everything in here. And if you wait long enough, they'll lower the offer and they're going to laugh while they pay you half of what they offered in the first place. It's a no-win situation. And realistically, it's causing economic damage. There's a house down the street from here, and it was just in shambles, and it sold for almost 800,000. There's two brothers that bought two of them, and they really put a lot of work into them, and it looks like they're renting the basement, but they put everything in legally, separate entries, everything. I got no problem with that because it's a better quality house and they've invested in the community. I really don't mind that. But these soulless mega corporations that screw around with our finances simply because they can, I'd like you to show me an example of where this has worked to enrich the common person. Yes, an average person could buy a house and make it, renovate it. I think my dad would have been able to do that, and he chose never to do it. Just because I'm skilled, I've got a lot of, I can do carpentry, I can do basic electric wiring, I can't do anything in HVAC. And yeah, that's just because I never decided to take those courses, whereas my dad was working back in the 60s when everything was drastically different. And he didn't decide to take his knowledge and run around acquiring houses and building a real estate empire. He decided to take his knowledge and be productive in his community. The more houses they were, the more the community grew. And as the community grew, the prosperity grew. If you're, this is something I intend to go over another time. If you're opening a restaurant and you choose to open an Indian restaurant in a highly Indian area, that's not very helpful because there's already 20 restaurants, for example, there. And you better have some real gimmick to keep it going. If you build a Philippine restaurant there, you're taking a chance. You better have really good food. And there are good Philippine restaurants out there. And if you open yourself a McDonald's, chances are everybody's going to wind up going to it. I like Indian food. Depends on the chef. There's some really, really good chefs, and they make fantastic Indian food. And then there's some that just put slop on the plate. That's the way it is with any cuisine. You can get Chinese food that you won't even know what the dickens it is. But it doesn't matter because if you're trying to open a restaurant, your workers got to have somewhere that they can call home, somewhere they can go home, have their cat or dog or fish, parrot, hamster, have a little place, whether it's a balcony, whatever it is, just so that way they can get out of the house. As we saw during COVID, there's a class difference already in those that have a balcony and those that have a backyard. But the real fight is not between them. It's the millionaires and billionaires who are trying to remove those same structures, whether you're a balcony person, whether you're a window person, whether you're a backyard person. Your fight is with the people who are controlling everything. And one day, and I don't know how soon this is, but it seems like it's under the current administration, it's going to become more and more possible. We're going to have to figure out what to do with all these virtually homeless people that can be evicted in a moment's notice. Because they're all going to need housing somewhere. Their kids are going to need housing somewhere. And then what do? Immigration is not the answer. Immigration is a panacea. And again, I have nothing against immigrants. But with that, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, share, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Don't forget to click the bell icon so that way you can stay informed every single time that we publish a new show, which is again going to be much more frequent than it was. And I've got to start figuring out what I'm going to do with my new partners on AM radio, which I'll be informing you more of probably early next week. And with that, we hope you have a fantastic day.